Hello, everybody, and welcome to the final day of the 2023. And you've just heard, and I've just realised I didn't mute myself there. Let's try that again. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the final day of the 2023 pre-season test here at the Red Bull Ring in Spielberg. It's the final day of testing before the start of the new season. I'm JW97, and just like the previous 2 days, I'm joined by Ra.
Yeah, hello everyone, and let's see what the final day of preseason testing goes.
Yeah, indeed, and obviously so far, Jesus Perinen has topped all 3 of the days so far, but can he make it 4 in a row? Can he make it 4 out of 4 by the end of the testing session? Well, before we obviously start, of course, as we're into the garage right now, there are 4 reserve drivers to talk about, of course. The reserve drivers, there's 4 in total. Wojciech Kulizec will be driving in the Williams today in place of Felix Sontag. Joao Pedro Kirby will be in the Aston Martin today in place of Jose Frederic Souto. Nicholas Zorbach will be in the Haas today in place of Laura Chong. And Dennis Graff, surprise, surprise, will be in the McLaren today in place of Kirishima De Rosa. So they are the 4 reserve drivers to talk about. There was some rumour that maybe David Kupok could have been in the Sauber today, but Rahul Patel literally told him no. So, yeah, we'll gloss over that. But anyway, they're the 4 reserve drivers to talk about, and then we're hoping to try and get some mileage in this car and maybe get a little bit of a warm-up basically to get rid of some rust, really, for their seasons coming up. Obviously, with Wojciech Kulizec, he's obviously competing in Formula 2 again this season. Joao Pedro Kirby, the same, of course. And the same for Dennis Graff. He'll be off to DTM this season, of course, for another season. And Nicholas Zorbach, who will again be racing in Formula 2 this season. And ironically, Zorbach and Kulizec, of course, were the top 2 last season in Formula 2. But the first car out on track is the reigning champion, Franco Lopez. We have seen the Toyotas coming out first quite a lot during these pre-season tests, but it's safe to say so far as we came here into the Red Bull Ring yesterday, whilst they do have a good downforce package like we saw at Mazzano, it seems that maybe top-end speed is just not their strength.
Yeah, it seems like that, but we'll see if they have sorted out in day 4. But at the moment, it does look like the top end speed is a big weakness for Toyota at the moment.
Indeed so. They finished 19th and 20th yesterday to both Lopez and Gomez, getting in front of both Aston Martins, it should be pointed out. But like Ra said, whether or not we'll see more pace with the Toyotas today, we shall wait and see. But the Mercedes so far of Jesus Perinen topping all the sessions so far. But even though he's been topping every session, it's safe to say it's not been by huge margins. Armar Carr has been close behind him, especially in the 2 days that he did do, apart from in day 2, of course, where he had that mechanical failure. But rivals such as Red Bull, Haas, and even Renault, who looked very strong yesterday, are very close on their heels.
Yeah, it could be an interesting championship fight between Red Bull, Mercedes, Haas, and even Renault. It could go to anyone's advantage here.
Indeed so, and well, that's that really, as we now look at Jesus Perinen, speaking of Mercedes, trying to get by the Renault there going into the first corner, that Renault being his former teammate Roman Quarg, and we talked about it earlier, glossed over a little bit when we were talking about how close they were to Jesus Perinen's lap times, but Renault, they look like they've got some very good straight line speed, and especially when we go to power tracks, like the Red Bull Ring, or maybe even Road America next week, they could look very strong round there.
Yeah, they could look very strong around there, and who knows, maybe they could even beat the Haas's and also the Red Bulls and the Mercedes. So let's see.
Well, over the course of the time that we've had the Fantasy era since 2021, Renault have picked up 2 victories, one each in both seasons. Evan Byrne, of course, winning in 2021 at Hockenheim Ring, and of course in 2022, Jesus Perinen took his first ever victory at that chaotic Chinese Grand Prix. Whether they can pick up any more this season, it remains to be seen, as we're getting some lap times already on the board. Only P11 for Bartosz Kloss on his first lap there in the Haas, so clearly not getting up to speed just yet with the car. Perinen going safe. Of course, he did get held up on his lap as Armar Carr goes 4 tenths quicker than Haas reserve driver Nicholas Zorbach at this stage. So he goes to the top with a 1 minute 3.883 at this stage now then. George Roque getting held up by traffic himself by Julius Anderson, currently in 4th place at the moment, is the Red Bull driver, as he's going to try and use some slipstream on Anderson, who himself goes into 20th with that lap at the moment. As Qual currently in last, I think he was obviously the one that got taken by Perinen, as Anderson goes wide there, just as Roque was on the inside, and clearly getting a little bit scared there by the Red Bull driver.
Yeah, clearly got a bit scared there, and no idea. Of course, he did set personal best, so all the momentum is lost, and he won't set personal best this time.
Yeah, indeed. Of course, one guy who's obviously having to do a bit of catching up from yesterday is the man we're looking at, Bartosz Klos, because let's not forget at the corner he just came out of earlier on, he did obviously crash there yesterday after trying his best, maybe getting a little bit impatient by the Aston Martin in front of, I think it was Andrei Sazonov he was trying to overtake, and well, that meant his running was cut short.
Yeah, and he had good pace, but the mileage wasn't there because of that mistake.
Indeed so, as meanwhile Wojciech Kulacek in the Williams goes up into 4th position, 5 tenths off of Omar Kars. A pretty good effort from the 2022 Formula 2 champion. A little bit gutting he's not in the top class this season, but I guess like with Aaron Curtis, who's still in Formula 2, he'll be determined to try and make it into the top class maybe for 2024 or maybe even 2025 if that's not possible.
Yeah, let's see what he can do. He's got hope that he has a good season, and yeah, and if he does, then he's got a chance on getting into the top class. But it depends on you know, on the right choices he can put in the signups.
Indeed so, as we just saw Mocho there crossing the line at this stage, as now we look at Chris Chatfield, who's just making his way around the final couple of corners. Perrin goes in second. Joe Pedro Kirby up in 11th place so far in the Aston Martin, doing a pretty good job, considering that we do believe that the Aston might be the worst car on the grid this season. Sazonov currently 19th, or we'll make that 20th now, because Lopez goes up into 18th position. Teammate Gomez has actually just gone up into 13th place as I just speak there. Quagga again getting overtaken by a car there, so once again, not really getting a clean lap there as the Renault driver, currently sitting in 9th position. Mocho up on his personal best in the first sector. Roke goes up into 4th place, meanwhile, slots behind teammate Evan Byrne at this stage now. Then as Mocho now will make his way towards the middle sector now, then we will go. And let's see if he's still up on his personal best here. Yep, only by 95 thousandths of a second. Joseph Willows in the McLaren goes up into 5th position. His teammate for today, Dennis Graff, down in 21st at the moment. So clearly trying to get up to speed in the McLaren. As Mocho, meanwhile, comes across the line in the Lamborghini and gets himself up into 12th place. Gets in front of teammate Jafari Blackwood at this stage. There's Wojciech Kulacek, who's trying to overtake the Ferrari. It's all the pit lane entrance intervenes because Chris Chatfield was coming into the pit. And, well, he'll need to turn that around quickly, but there's lots of traffic around, so he's trying to still find a breakthrough into the traffic, but there's quite a lot around, as you can see on the mini-map. But, yeah, not really ideal there for Chris Chatfield, and the pit lane entrance striking once again around this circuit.
Yep, once again it strikes. He's still waiting for a gap to go through, so he can come back into the pit. But will he be able to come back into the pit safely?
Well, either way, even if he does crash, it will not count towards the spare car ban because, as we know, well, he thankfully gets it going safely, in fact, but I was going to say if he did crash, it wouldn't count because it obviously counts as a pit lane entrance glitch. So any pit lane entrance glitch crashes that happened, it will not count towards the spare car ban, as we know. So Chatfield would have got away with it regardless. But anyway, it's Kirby now then, trying to find a way through on his teammate Sazonov up towards the Remus curve now then. So clearly practicing some slipstreaming are the two Aston Martin drivers, but I bet Sazonov's probably getting a little bit annoyed that Kirby is doing that to him at the moment. But yeah, so lots of practicing of slipstream there. But yeah, it kind of on the topic of Aston Martin, we talked about how they were the slowest yesterday, but it kind of confirmed our little theory over at Misano, really, that even though they are the slowest, even at tracks around the Red Bull Ring, they're not too far away from the pace like we saw with Williams last season.
Yeah, they're not too far away off pace. Let's see if they can keep it up consistently throughout the season. So at the moment, promising for now. Oh, it's happened again.
Yep, as both Kirby and Byrne were trying to get into the pit lane. That will not count towards Kirby's spare car ban, by the way. He's just that was obviously a pit lane entrance glitch there because they were both coming into the pits there, and clearly both of them didn't want to give up track position.
Yeah, clearly both didn't, and yeah, neither you will lose a little bit of time, but of course it won't count to a spare car ban, so that's good for Kirby.
Indeed so, as we now ride on board with his teammate, Andrei Sazonov, who's currently at the moment in 19th position. Quarg and Graf able to put some improvements down on the leaderboard. But again, on the topic of Joseph Willows, who's currently up in 7th place, we did see that yesterday he was putting in some strong performances. And speaking of strong performance, Kulizek in the Williams goes up into 3rd position. So Kulizek showing some really good pace in the Williams so far to get up into 3rd position. That's pretty impressive from the Czech driver. But as I was saying with Joseph Willows, yesterday was able to get the car into the top 10, whereas De Rosa couldn't. And so far, once again, proving that perhaps as I think I may have had a lag there, but as I was going to say there, Willows once again proving that the McLaren may actually have some good straight line speed like we saw last season.
Yeah, it looks promising for McLaren, and yeah, well, there's showing it so far. De Rosa hasn't, and let's see if Graf can show it as well.
Yeah, indeed, as Mocho is currently up on his personal best. Meanwhile, in the Lamborghini, we look back at Kulizek. He's actually coming back into the pits this lap, but he's definitely done, it's safe to say, a very good job in that Williams so far. And currently in 3rd place, so I guess he'll be pretty happy with the performances he's putting in that car today so far. And, well, clearly trying to put his name out for possibly a future top-class seat in the future, providing he does well in Formula 2 this season.
Yeah, and gone to grips in that Williams, and that's promising signs for him, and hopefully he does well in Formula 2.
Indeed, and well, it will definitely carry some momentum over, that is for sure. As Sazanov's now coming back into the pits, meanwhile, for Aston Martin. Currently 17th at the moment. A teammate who we saw earlier, Joe Petrocurvi, up in 13th place, so he's obviously doing quite a decent job at the moment. Here's Bens Valdinger in the Sauber now then, as he now makes his way up towards the first corner now then, categorically known as the P10 Merchant in the OC, with the amount of 10th place finishes that he had last season when the team was obviously known as Alfa Romeo, of course. But yeah, in terms of Sauber, we might as well touch on them. A pretty decent day for them yesterday, 12th and 15th, and clearly proven, because we talked about yesterday how the Ferrari was able to counteract their straight line speed in the hands of Chris Chatfield, of course, who finished in 13th, because we know how poor the Ferrari has been throughout pre-season testing. But so far, Ferrari still proven that they've got some good straight line speed, like we saw last season.
Yeah, indeed, and also shows for the Sauber as well, and of course for the Haas too. So it's looking good for Ferrari in terms of straight line speed. But of course, in the downforce tracks, they're going to struggle a lot.
Indeed so, and obviously we'll have to see if that's going to be the case. But if when we get to power tracks, Ferrari will try and counteract that as best as possible. But the Scarlet Red team may be in for a tough season here in 2023. So both Chatfield and Federa will have to do their best to try and outperform the car as best as possible. Gomez, meanwhile, in the Toyota, has just gone up into 11th position. Dennis Graff now coming back into the pits for McLaren. Lopez improved, but only into 19th position. So a little bit of a contrast going on here between two Toyota drivers, but looks like Gomez faring a little bit better than what he did yesterday.
Yeah, he's looking a bit better, and yeah, he's actually going to grips with the car, it seems.
Yeah, indeed. Martin's further improves. He's 2 tenths away from Armar car. So once again, the Renault proving it's got some good straight line speed. Teammate Quark currently in 7th place. Kloss, meanwhile, only in 13th at the moment. That's a little bit of a bit odd to say. I mean, I know he's still trying to play a little bit of catch up after what happened yesterday with him in this testing session when he obviously crashed out. But yeah, seems a bit odd that he's down in 13th at the moment in a car that so far looked very, very promising in pre-season testing.
Could be there's a setup related, but I don't know. Maybe the pace ain't there, but I do believe it is down to setup related.
Perhaps indeed, but definitely want to keep an eye on. We'll see if Kloss is able to try and find further improvement a little bit later on in the session. There's a big traffic jam down here as they approach the Remus curve. Gomez struggling to find a way through as the Red Bull gets a little bit mugged there by the Toyota, who was using the slipstream. I think that was Joantis Martins in front, and well, I think it's George Rote that was getting held up there. So I don't think George is going to be too happy that he's getting held up by both Martins and Gomez at the moment. As so far, Rote finding himself in 6th, and Byrne currently in 5th position so far in the other Red Bull. So only 5th and 6th so far for the Red Bulls at this stage as Kloss goes up into 11th position, so maybe starting to get up to speed, but still not where we expect the Haas to be so far in this session. Zorbach currently 9th at the moment in the other Haas at the moment, so only Patelli separating the two Haas drivers at this stage. So yeah, it looks like Haas are getting off to a bit of a slow start here on day 4.
Yeah, it looks like that. Slow stuff for us, of course, not ideal, but of course we got over 30 minutes to go, so it's a long way to go.
Indeed so. Lopez goes up to 14th meanwhile, so now he's got up to a position where Gomez is. He might have actually cheekily used a bit of slipstream there from Roman Quarg. It was in fact Quarg that was actually holding up the Toyota there, not Martins. I couldn't really tell from a distance whether it was a green and yellow helmet or a blue helmet, really. It was a little bit hard to tell with the halo in front of it. But anyway, we now look at Bent Valdinga once again. Currently 21st at the moment is Valdinga, so a little bit off Patel at the moment. He's currently in the top 10 in the Sauber. But yeah, it should be quite interesting to see what Sauber is able to do. Byrne, meanwhile, goes up into 4th place, gets himself in front of the Williams of Wojciech Kulizec at this stage now. Then Byrne 3 tenths away from Armar Carr, who's currently at the top of the moment, and it's still a Mercedes 1-2. But so far, Carr wanting to try and end a Perennial streak, but so far it could be 4 out of 4 for the Mercedes so far if things stay like this with just under 30 minutes to go.
Yeah, so far Mercy's looking good. So far they could be the team to beat, but I mean Red Bull are the reigning teams champions so far, so that realistically Red Bull are the team to beat. But so far Mercedes have gone the edge over Red Bull at the moment.
Indeed so. Valdinga is actually coming back into the pits this lap as he's got one of the Mercedes following him along with a Ferrari as well. But yeah, that's that really. As the Hungarian now, they're just coming out of the hairpin there then, as Valdinga now making his way towards the middle part of the track. Now, obviously, yesterday, if anybody didn't see, of course, we obviously had the Formula E preseason test over at the circuit Ricardo Tormo, which saw the two Venturis topping the session, with Coach Chun Cheong beating his teammate Alex-Eric Lucien to the top of the timing sheet. And, well, quite an interesting session, it must be said, and well, it looks like Venturi could be promising. I mean, as they are now a Group 1 car this season. Nissan looked a little bit off yesterday, it must be said, down in 14th and 15th, but that might be different when we get to Sao Paulo, because Nissan are still a Group 1 team, despite what the results said yesterday. And, well, Jay McKenzie was looking quite impressive as well in the Group 2 cheater to get it up into 5th place. So maybe McKenzie looking to have a good season in Formula E, despite the fact that he's in a Group 2 car for this season. But yeah, a lot of big names over in Formula E for this season, especially, and it should be quite interesting for Blake's first season, which I think as a stream it went quite well. There were a few little issues with some issues that happened during that stream, but overall I think it was a success nonetheless, and hopefully Blake can have a good first season as host. Of course, the first race, for anybody who's wondering, for Formula E will be taking place not this Sunday, but next Sunday instead, on the 6th of August at the Sao Paulo E-Prix at Interlagos, and that is due to the fact that Blake was originally meant to go to London this weekend, but unfortunately due to train strikes in the UK at the moment, it has meant that instead he's moved his plans over to Croft. He's instead going to the BTCC this Sunday instead to watch over in Croft to watch the latest meeting for that, really. So instead of going to London to watch the Formula E finale, he's going to Croft this weekend to watch the British Touring Car Championship. So yeah, that's kind of that, really. So yeah, and so that's kind of why Formula E is not on this weekend. For anybody who was wondering, there, it's actually going to be on next weekend instead. So anyway, as we turn back to the action in the top class, meanwhile, we're looking right on board with Joantis Martins, who currently finds himself in 3rd position. Martins had a very impressive season, it must be said, in 2022 with Aston Martin, but obviously now driving for Renault this season is the Brazilian driver, and he's definitely wanting to try and see if he can grab his first victory of the season.
Yeah, especially right now, it's looking likely he could get it, but time would tell. Well, and he's got his first podium in the top class. So if he can get that's good. Then he can aim for the win. If he can get the win first, that would be great.
Indeed so. As Gomez, meanwhile, his fellow compatriot is coming back into the pits in that as he overtakes Martin's teammate, in fact, Roman Quarg, into the first corner. So clearly Quarg might be actually running quite a weak setup down the straight at the moment. He's currently in 8th place at the moment, just only 9 thousandths behind George Roque at the moment. Gomez, in fact, I've only just realised, is actually up in 6th place at the moment in the Toyota. So both Kulizec and Gomez having quite good days at the moment. And we did think that, looking at our early predictions, that maybe Williams could be fighting with Lamborghini and Toyota this season in that fight for what could be 5th place in the Constructors' Championship. But yeah, both Kulisek and Gomez putting in good performances so far during this preseason test.
Yeah, it could be down to set related, and it could be down to insane variation, but and driver skill. But who knows, really?
Indeed so. Lopez currently in 14th position at the moment. So far has had the pace of Gomez over the past 3 days, but it looks like Gomez may actually have a better day here today. As we run on board with Dennis Graff, who always going a bit wide here and carrying a bit too much speed, and he's got front wing damage as a result, and he's got a pit lane glitch in the process of doing that. But yeah, Graff there clearly making a similar error to Kloss, even if it is, well, if you exclude the pit lane entrance glitch there at Ra, it was obviously to a less extent than what Kloss had.
Yeah, a terrible mistake from Dennis Graff. His session won't be over, but he is done in 17th, so not ideal. He might need to get. He will get more running, but he's gonna improve from that. He's gonna try and improve from that 17th.
Yeah, indeed. He's lucky that was a little pit lane glitch there with the AI in terms of the amount of steering input it puts in when it gets damaged. But yeah, because otherwise, if it happened anywhere else on the track, that would have been Graff's session over with. And knowing his reputation of trying to get as many free practice sessions in as possible, it wouldn't have got off to the best of starts if it happened somewhere else on the racetrack.
Yeah, definitely, and it could help him out for other series, but yeah, only time will tell if he does well throughout the following season.
Yeah, indeed, and well, that was that really. But anyways, we now turn our attention back to the rest of the action now. Then we're looking at Lopez now. Then he's down on his personal best in the first sector. We talked about it a little bit earlier. It does look like to be a better day for Toyota so far, because obviously yesterday, of course, they were 19th and 20th in the results charts. But it looks like that maybe the point that it could have been setup related might be the reason here, because so far they look to be having a better day than what they did yesterday.
Yeah, it seems like that. It could be down to site related, but who knows really? If they can do that in the actual qualifying sessions and practice sessions and even in the race, then yeah, that could be they could be looking good so far.
Meanwhile, Willows has just further improved to go up into 9th position as one of the Haas cars comes out, but it looks like it's going to get caught up in quite a bit of traffic on this stint now. Then Lopez is actually coming back into the pits, this time for Toyota, so he'll be making his way back in pit lane. Along with his teammate Gomez, who is also coming to the pits as we speak at the moment. So 3rd and 6th so far for the two Brazilian drivers, and so far Gomez looking pretty impressive. Martin's also looking pretty impressive as well. And so is obviously Wojciech Kulisek, who's so far having a great outing in that Williams. His teammate Anderson is now in 20th because Chatfield just now there is just further improved to go up into 18th position. So bit of a contrasting view really with the Williamses so far. Kulisek's looking up paces. Oh, Quark session is over and it's a Renault engine failure. Now we talked about this a few days ago that Renault have not had any mechanical problems, but now it's come back. It has now arrived here on day 4 and Quark has got a Renault engine failure.
Yeah, first time we've seen an engine failure in testing, but yeah, and it happens to be a Renault.
Yeah, and Quark's session has come to an end as a result of that, thanks to a blown engine. And, we thought that maybe Renault may have actually improved their reliability, but maybe some worried looks may be coming back to the French team, perhaps.
Yeah, perhaps. And if this happens in the actual races, then that's not going to be good for them. It could set them back a lot here.
Yeah, indeed, and that's pretty much that, really. I will point out as well, though, whilst that was going on with Qual, the whole pack at the moment only separated by just over 1 second, so pretty close indeed. Valdinger currently bringing up the rear, but I'd imagine with the car he's got, he might be looking at an improvement very soon in this session, but we'll have to wait and see. But that is a mechanical problem, and that is Qual's session done with. Unlike what we saw with the pit lane entrance glitches, his is not a glitch, of course, so his session is done with, of course, and Quark will have to spend the rest of the session and the rest of this preseason test watching on from the pit wall.
Yeah, and that's not ideal. But of course, he's got some good mileage up until then. But of course, not ideal. And he's got to move on to the opening round of the season.
Yeah, indeed, and he'll be hoping that the reliability is better when we get to Road America, of course, next week. Graf, meanwhile, goes up into 14th place in the McLaren, so he's now just 6 places away from his more experienced teammate for today. Oh,
Oh
we've got
no!
another pit lane. I think is that pit lane one? Or, well, either way, Martins will not get the spare car ban, but I don't know. Was Valdinger's pit lane? I think, no, it
No.
wasn't. It was actually an actual accident, in fact, so, that's interesting. I don't know how I mean, obviously Martins's one is a glitch because obviously that's because of damage. But Valdinger, well, that's a bit of an interesting one. He's actually still kept on going. So even if he does go into the pit lane, then it won't count towards the spare car ban. But yeah, that's a bit of an interesting one. Yeah. Yeah, I'm going to say. But interestingly enough, the initial contact there, whilst it didn't take them out initially until they obviously had to deal with the pit lane entrance, as we know, a bit of an interesting one there. I wonder if maybe Valdinger just didn't see Martins.
Yeah, it could be that. Yeah, I feel like Pets didn't really see him coming. But I mean, he did at the line, so I don't understand why Martins went for it anyway.
Bit of an interesting one there, but for once, that incident wasn't down to the pit lane entrance. It was only really when they were trying to get back into the pits to repair their damage that was a pit lane entrance glitch. Although Martins has just passed his garage there because that's where the Renault garage is, and he's just passed it there. So the marshal will have to quickly dispose of that pretty quickly as Gomez there having to back off a little bit from Joao Pedro Kirby. I forgot there's actually 3 Brazilians in this testing session because Kirby is obviously Brazilian. So the 3 Brazilians at the moment actually having a decent session. Kirby currently 16th at the moment in the Aston Martin, so he's doing well. Meanwhile, Kloss finally getting some representation for Haas's pace now. He gets up into 4th position now, 3 tenths away from Armar. So finally we're starting to see the Haas having some good speed there, as in fact Gomez actually pulls a good move there on Kirby into the left-hander. So maybe showing some weaknesses there with the Aston Martin compared to the Toyota. Who knows really? But yeah, finally we're starting to see some the real pace of the Haas starting to show now with Kloss up in 4th.
Yeah, yeah, good enough for Kloss. Hopefully he can keep this up. Maybe he could do better.
Yeah, indeed, and well, that's that really. Martin's now in the garage as we speak now then, as Roke is now obviously in the garage, and it looks like one of the Mercedes has also come back into the pits as well at the same time. Bernard should come out on the track right into the path of one of the Toyotas there. I think that might be Franco Lopez, Byrne's rival from last season, who's just right behind him. But I think it's safe to say that if Byrne is going to be competing for the title again this season, I think it's highly unlikely that Lopez is going to feature in that title fight this season.
Yeah, indeed. I mean, Lopez is just going to try his best at Toyota. He's trying to build the team going forward.
Yep, meanwhile, Kloss has now actually set the identical time to Joantis Martins. They're both setting the same time, in fact, and they're both 0.214 seconds behind Armar. So Kloss, obviously, he's obviously behind Martins on the timing screen because, of course, he set the time after Martins did. Martins set that time before Kloss did, so that's why it looks like that at the moment. So maybe Kloss could actually get himself to the top 3 if he can keep up the momentum he's currently showing at the moment. Meanwhile, looks like Anderson's going to get overtaken here by Dennis Graf into the first corner there. And, well, that's that really for the McLaren. As meanwhile, Byrne is currently ahead of that Toyota. I think it's actually Gomez, in fact, that's behind him because I think it's a yellow helmet, not the blue and white helmet. Sorry, the purple and white helmet that we see from Franco Lopez, of course. So, yeah, that's that really. As now we look now at Anderson, who's now actually starting to lose some time to Dennis Graf in front. Meanwhile, Armar trying to overtake a Ferrari into the second last corner. That Ferrari being Chris Chatfield, but not able to do so on that occasion. So maybe Carr just getting a little bit held up at the moment by the Ferrari driver. Let's see if he will try and overtake him up towards the first corner, the Niki Lauda curve as it's now known as. And it looks like he might actually have the speed, which he is going to do. So Carr gets through Chatfield pretty easily there into the first corner. Martins has come back out onto the racetrack, maybe to see if he can try and get himself still ahead of Kloss, but I'm not sure what Kloss is doing at the moment. So far, he's still tied on the same lap time as Joantis Martins in this session. So we're just on a 16.5 minutes to go in this session. This is what the leaderboard looks like then. Car at the top with Prin in second, Martin's in third, Kloss in fourth, Roke is in fifth with Burn in sixth, Kulazech is in seventh with Gomez in eighth, Willow's ninth, Quarg in 10th, and that will be it for him, of course, because he obviously had a mechanical failure. Zorbak is in 11th with Patel in 12th, Graf in 13th, Macho 14th, Lopez in 15th, Kirby in 16th, with Blackwood in 17th, Chatfield 18th, and then it is Anderson 19th, Sazonov in 20th, Videri in 21st, and Valdinger in 22nd position. Graf is coming back into the pits at the end of this lap. He was obviously just overtaken there by the Red Bull of, I think it Burn or Rogue? I'm not really sure. In fact, I can't really quite tell which Red Bull that is there. But Graf is obviously coming back into the pits this time by currently finding himself in 13th position and 4 places away from Joseph Willows at this stage. If it's in fact Rogue, because this is Burn right now trying to overtake. This is Videri into the second last corner, which he does do quite easily, in fact, although he has compromised his line through into the Red Bull corner there. And it looks like the Ferrari might actually try and get back onto the straight there. Burn is actually coming back into the pit at the end of this lap. Is the Ferrari going to re-overtake him into the first corner? And, well, it looks like he is going to, but Burn looks like he's got better momentum coming out of the Red Bull curve, and Burn is going to stay in front. As a result of that, as mentioned, he'll be coming back into the pit this time by Videri. Tries into Remus, but it's not going to work out there for the Ferrari driver. And, well, I think he might have to give up on trying to overtake the Red Bull on that occasion. Meanwhile, the Red Bulls currently, sorry, not the Red Bulls, the Lamborghinis currently 14th and 15th so far. And, well, a little bit of a contrast to what we've seen for the previous 3 days from the Lambos, because they have looked pretty decent in the hands of Mocho and Blackwood, but so far, looking like they might be struggling a little bit today. 14th and 15th for the pair of them.
Yeah, it could be down to other teams stepping it up here. And, of course, and let's see what they can do. They have been consistently there, so that's a good sign. So they haven't dropped off that much, which is good for them. So they can be right up there.
Yeah, indeed. We'll have to wait and see if there's more time to find with Mocho and Blackwood a little bit later on in this session. Now then, here is Chatfield, who's currently 80th at the moment, teammate Videri in 21st. So even though Chatfield showed some pretty decent pace yesterday, getting up in 13th place, it looks like maybe, as we saw in Mazzano, back to reality for this Ferrari.
Yeah, it seems like it could be back to reality, but of course, everyone, it's also down to everyone stepping up. So yeah, it is pretty much back to reality, but they're there, so which is okay. So let's see what they could do going into the season. Same for the Aston Martins as well.
Yeah, indeed, as Chatfield now then making his way up towards the first corner there, as he just goes around there, as a Haas comes out onto the racetrack, and trying to see who that is. I think that's Bartosz Kloss, in fact, that's just come out onto the racetrack, in fact, currently in 4th place on the same time, of course, as Johannes Martins. So currently tied for 3rd place at the moment are both Martins and Kloss at this stage. With just over 13 minutes to go now then for pre-season testing before we get to the start of the new season. And so far, Mercedes currently still topping it at the moment. It looks like it could be 4 out of 4 for the German manufacturer at the moment. Car a 10th clear of teammate Jesus Perinen and might actually top it before the end of pre-season testing. Whether that could be a sign to come when we get to the season, we'll have to wait and see. But Car definitely determined to try and see if he can finally get his first World Championship this season.
Yeah, he's determined, but of course, the field, there is more teams coming up fighting with them. So with not only Mercedes but also Red Bull with Haas and Renault, not only just there, but yeah, he'll have more competition than we would have expected to get.
Burn just comes out in front of Chatfield there as he's now on fresher rubber and looking to see if he could try and maybe improve on that 6th position he's currently at this stage. But it looks like Kloss is going to get held up on his first flying lap by the Ferrari, so he's not going to be able to improve on this occasion. Riding on board with the other Haas of Nicholas Zorbak, obviously the reserve driver for Haas for the 2nd season running, currently finding himself in 11th position at the moment and a little bit off his teammate, but maybe he could try and maybe improve on this lap, although he has got a hell of a lot of traffic in front of him. 4 cars, in fact, of traffic. 1 Aston Martin, 1 Ferrari, 1 Toyota, it looked like, in front as well. And not really sure who the other car was in front, but Zorbak's down on his personal best in the first sector, And for Zorbach, of course, he obviously missed out on the Formula 2 title last season. Let's not forget, he was obviously very upset that he lost that title last season. He was obviously gutted to lose that title, but he will definitely be determined to try and see if he can win it this season.
Yeah, let's see if he can do that, but yeah, he is a Formula 2 veteran after all, and yeah, who knows when he can get his big break and get a full-time seat in the top class. Of course, he had a second off stint in the top class once, but it really went to disaster.
Yeah, it wasn't the best of seasons for Zorbach when he did actually make that appearance in 2017 for Manor, and really, it's obviously a season that he's obviously tried to forget about ever since. Meanwhile, Kulizec improves to go up into 6th place, has shown once again some good pace in the Lamborghini-powered Williams at the moment, and splitting the two Red Bull drivers at the moment is the 2022 Formula 2 champion, splitting both Roke and Byrne at this stage now then, as Zorbach is actually trying to find a way through on this Ferrari in front, which I do believe is I'm not actually sure which Ferrari that is, to be honest with you, that he's trying to overtake, because both of them are out there on the racetrack at the moment, as Zorbach is actually going to try and overtake the Ferrari into the second last corner. It's Andre Verderi he's trying to overtake at the second to last corner, in fact, but he's not able to do so on that occasion. Verderi refusing to let him go at this stage now then, and Zorbach might actually try and overtake up towards the first corner here. Let's see if he's going to be able to achieve that. I think that's Omar Carlos just coming to the pits on the left-hand side there, and Zorbach does finally overtake the Ferrari into the first corner, but I don't think he's going to be too particularly happy that he got held up there by Verderi at that point in time. But yeah, that's that really. So far then, as Kulizec has actually got the checkered flag next to his name, and I have noticed that the laps have for some reason been reverted back to 30 laps, in fact. So, and well, that's a bit bizarre there, because they were at 35 yesterday, as you guys may have seen in the on the stream yesterday, and that Ferrari showing how you should do it coming into the pit lane entrance. So yeah, that's that really. But yeah, Kulizec got the checkered flag next to his name, and well, it doesn't necessarily mean his session is over just yet. It's just as soon as he comes back into the pit, that will be his session done with. So yeah, for some reason it's reverted back to 30, even though yesterday we saw it was at 35. So a little bit bizarre there what's going on there. So yeah, that's that really, as Zorbach comes out in the final turn meanwhile, but he's still not been able to put in improvement at the moment until the last sector, of course. So able to find some time in the last sector and goes up into 11th position now then. So still outside the top 10 is the Haas driver. Finds himself 5 tenths off of Armar Carr at this stage, and he'll look to see if he can try and further improve on the on his next lap here as he now rounds Remus curve. Let's see if he's still up on his personal best in the first sector. Perrin now getting the checkered flag next to his name, and yeah, 3 tenths up on his personal best that time by, and only 75 thousandths off of Armar Carr. So now it seems that Zorbach, like we saw with Kloss a little bit earlier on, maybe starting to turn up the wick a little bit in that Haas car now then. So let's see what he's able to do with the Haas now then, as he now makes his way towards this double left-hander on the racetrack, as he'll now approach the end of the middle sector. Let's see if he's still up on his personal best on this occasion, and he is by 3 tenths, 1 tenth off of Carr meanwhile, and he could get around about where Martins and Kloss is at the moment, but we shall see. As the German driver, who's obviously a little bit of a specialist of Austria, if you've ever watched Formula 2, it's obviously his favourite circuit, in fact, as Zorbach crosses the line and goes up into 3rd. So Zorbach getting himself into the top 3, as Gomez has a lock-up for into the first corner, but definitely showing that why this is his favourite circuit.
Yeah, and so far he's looking good, and it shows why Austria is his favorite circuit.
Indeed so, and he'll obviously want to use that when he gets into, obviously, Formula 2 this season once again. Of course, for anybody wondering as well, the pre-season test for Formula 2 starts this coming Monday and Tuesday. Monday taking place at the Miami International Autodrome in Miami Gardens. The first ever time the OC fraternity will actually do a session around that circuit. Hopefully, because it's a street circuit, it won't be like what we saw at Baku, I think, a couple of seasons ago. Or was it last season that they tested at Baku? I actually can't remember, to be honest with you. I think it was actually last season, wasn't it, where there was a little bit of chaos during that pre-season test. But meanwhile, Zorbach is going to further improve at the moment, and before he gets held up by that couple of cars that's in front there, let's see if he can further improve in the Haas now then, as he now crosses the line, and he actually goes up into second place now, so he's actually split the two Mercedes drivers, just as he's actually coming into the pits.
He's
Here
got
this
a
lap,
throttle
just as he has a
problem.
throttle problem. Just as he has a throttle problem as well, so a little bit of a coincidence there. He crosses the line, and just as he crosses the line, his car decides to have a throttle problem. Now, can he get it back to the pits? Because he does have the pit indicator on the top there, but can Zorbach make it back, or is this going to be session over for the German?
Let's see if he can, but yeah, that is odd that he gets a throttle problem just as he improves to go up to the second place, but yeah, not ideal, and there'll be a lot of work to do for Haas if they go to sort that one out, and if this is going to be a recurring problem, then that's going to be a big problem for Haas.
Well, we did see that even though they had a quick car last season, reliability did plague them last season as well. So we'll have to wait and see if that's going to be a thing this season. But maybe a bit of a concern for Haas. But I think he is going to actually make it back to the pit. So he will be able to get away with that one, I think. And the team can actually have a look and see how they can fix that issue. So Zorbach makes it back to the pit. And luckily, that session luckily his session is not over right there and then. Anderson, meanwhile, is on an improvement in the Williams. He improves but stays in 18th place at the moment as he's actually being followed by a fellow Lamborghini powered car. Not sure which one that is, whether that's Mocho or Blackwood that's right behind at this stage. A couple of others have got checkered flags next to their names. Cara's got one along with Perinen as well. We obviously have Kulizec as well, and Patella's also got one as well. So only 4 drivers with checkered flags next to their names. Chatfield, meanwhile, gets up into 15th place in the Ferrari now then, as now Sazonov gets the checkered flag next to his name now then, as Anderson down on his personal best in Sector 1 that time by. A little bit off compared to his teammate Kulizec. A little bit odd to really see really that Kulizec is in the top 10 and Anderson currently struggling down in 19th. Maybe it's setup related, who knows really. Lopez now gets the checkered flag next to his name, the 3-time champion, down in 17th, and obviously we'll be finishing off soon. A few more cars with checkered flags, Roque and Gomez as well. And as we're approaching towards the end of the session. So we're just under 5 minutes to go now then. This is what the leaderboard currently looks like. Car at the top with Zorbach in second, Perinen in third, Martins in fourth, then it is Kloss in fifth, Roque in sixth, Kulizec in seventh, with Gomez in eighth, and then it is Byrne in ninth, Willows in 10th, then it is Quag 11th, Patel 12th, Graf in 13th, Mocho 14th, Chatfield in 15th, Blackwood in 16th, Lopez 17th, Anderson 18th, Kirby in 19th, with Videri in 20th, Sazonov in 21st, and Valdinger in 22nd position. The whole pack separated by just over a second. Anderson is coming back into the pits at the end of this lap, despite the fact that he's up on his personal best in that first sector there. Graf goes up to 13th, meanwhile, in the McLaren, 6 tenths away from Armar Car's time at this stage now then. And I wonder if we'll see Zorbach back on track and see if the Haas mechanics can repair that throttle problem that he's currently got in his car at the moment, as now they make their way around this left and right-hander now then. We all go, but some very encouraging sign, and Zorbach does come out on track. He's just come out onto the track right in front of Johannes Martins, meanwhile, as he was actually coming back into the pit at the end of this lap there. So, really, in the end, it didn't really make a difference if Zorbach held up Martins or not there. But, yeah, that's that really, as now they make their way through into the hairpin now. Then we go, just over 3 minutes to go in this session as we get to the closing stages of pre-season testing here for 2023. So Chatfield goes up to 14th, gets in front of both Lamborghini drivers now to Chatfield. So maybe now he's starting to drag some performance out of the Ferrari engine now then, after what has been quite a dismal preseason test for the Scuderia. As that's that. Zorbach will be starting on a level that pretty soon. Whether he can try and get to the top of the timing sheets before the end of it, we shall wait and see. He's only 93 thousandths behind Armar Carr, who I think is actually finished for the day. I think he's actually in the garage, so Zorbach's not going to be coming out for the rest of the session. Not sure if Jesus Perinen, who's also got the checkered flag next to his name, but if he is in the garage, then that means it's not going to be 4 out of 4 testing sessions for Jesus Perinen. But will it still be 4 out of 4 testing sessions for Mercedes, or will Zorbach or anybody else beat the Mercedes by the end of this session? We'll have to wait and see, as Valdinger rounds the Remus curve. Currently in last place, but can he get out of last place, of course? He's 1/10 down on his personal best. Mocho goes up into 12th place, meanwhile, in the Lamborghini, as Chatfield gets held up by one of the McLarens. That's Joseph Willows that he's being held up by at this stage. Willows still in the top 10 at the moment in the McLaren, as Chatfield does not improve and stays in what is, where is he? In fact, 15th place at this stage, just as he overtakes Willows into the first corner there. And so far, Willow's still in the top 10 at the moment in the McLaren. So, again, looks like a decent day for McLaren after everything they've had last season, of course. But, yeah, that's that really. And so far, in terms of Haas, a pretty good showing of testing. Zorbach crossed the line, but no improvement there. In fact, I think he might actually be starting his lap. I'm not 100%. No, I think he was actually on a lap, but he's not been able to improve at the moment as he's 93 thousandths away from Armar car. As now Chatfield will make his way around the double left-hander now then on the racetrack, as I think pretty soon we'll be viewing on board the drivers for the remainder of the session, because we've not got that long left. As Mocho goes into 11th position now then, so he improves to go up into P number 11 at this stage with just over a minute to go in this session. Car is finished, he's just come back into the pit, so that's his session done with. Chris Chatfield now then across the line. He will go. No improvement. He stays where he is for the moment. Evan Byrne, no improvement. He stays in 9th position. Not been the best of days for Red Bull today, it must be said. 6th and 9th place for both Roke and Byrne in this session. We're right on board with the Haas reserve driver, Nicolas Zorbach, as he now rounds the last couple of corners on the racetrack now. Then through the final turn goes the German driver as he now makes his way onto the pit straight. And Zorbach, across the line he goes. No improvement. Stays where he is. Valdinger crosses the line, he will go in the Sauber, and he stays where he is for the time being, as Kloss and Anderson will get one more lap in before the session comes to a close. Mocho up on his personal best again by 600ths of a second, so he could actually push Willows out of the top 10 if he can keep this up, as Mocho now then making his way around the final turn. 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 and 0. Checkered flag is now out. That is the end of the session. Mocho got up into 10th place, and he was the last car to cross the line on that occasion. So Mocho creeps his Lamborghini into the top 10 before the end of the session there, as now Chatfield is up on his personal best, across the line, goes up into 13th. Willow's no improvement, he stays in 11th position. Nicolas Zorbach now then rounds the section of corners now that he'll go on the racetrack, as the Haas driver now they're making his way towards the final couple of corners. It's been a very positive day for Haas in the end, 2nd and 5th, and they could be a team to watch out for this season, it must be said. Zorbach out of the final turn and onto the pit straight now then he goes. Nicolas Zorbach across the line, no improvement, and stays in 2nd position. So it looks like it is going to be 4 out of 4 sessions for Mercedes in testing. Valdinger stays in last position. Kloss, no improvement, he stays in 5th. Julius Anderson across the line he goes, and he stays down in 18th. Mocho was supposed to be the last car to cross the line, but he's actually coming into the pits at the end of this lap. So that is testing done with as a result of that, with car top, Zorbach in 2nd, and Perinen in 3rd position. But a very interesting last day indeed, and I've got to ask you, Rob, before we go off the air, who are your early what are your early predictions going into the 2023 season?
I'm gonna say Hayes Brennan could win the championship, and I think for the team's championship, I'm gonna say Mercedes.
Okay, my early predictions, I think Perinen will win the championship, but I think he'll have a close fight with Red Bull and Haas behind. I'm predicting that maybe, keeping my fingers crossed, maybe this is positive thinking, that maybe we could get at least one representative for those 3 teams fighting for the title. And if so, I would think that Byrne will be in the title fight along with Chung as well. But maybe Carr could be in there as well with Mercedes. He's determined to do that as well. That is my prediction there, but I think he'll win the championship. And in terms of the constructors, I think Red Bull might actually retain it, in my opinion. I think, in my honest opinion, if Carr is not able to show the speed that he's got, if Carr can show that speed, then maybe Mercedes will win it. But maybe I think we could see a similar situation to what we saw last season, but with Haas also in contention for the constructors as well. But there you have it then. That has been it from pre-season testing for the 2023 season. I hope you have enjoyed it. A very, very enjoyable 4 days indeed. And, well, hopefully we'll be in for a cracking season in 2023. But that has been it then. I hope you have enjoyed it. We will see you then coming next week, of course, on Monday, Tuesday, and, well, in the case of the top class, the next time you'll see the top class, of course, will be over at Road America for the United States Grand Prix. The new season, and the first ever time that the top class will be racing around Road America, of course, for 47 laps of action. So it should be a very exciting race there indeed, one that I'm personally looking forward to seeing as well, and hopefully it could be in for a cracking first race of the season. Of course, don't forget, on Monday and Tuesday we'll have Formula 2 pre-season testing over at Miami Gardens and Imola, of course, on Tuesday, so do look forward to that. Monday, of course, for Miami Gardens. But until then, guys, that has been it. I hope you have enjoyed it, so thank you all for watching. I'm JW97. He's been Ra, and we will see you next week for the start of the new season over at Road America. Till then, take care.
Goodbye.